All the players and the staff that have gone through this training camp with us. These are tough days, these last couple of days, going through it, making these choices. And again, it'll be good to get to the other side of it completely in a couple of days here. But a lot of tough decisions, but I'm very, very appreciative of the work and the effort, not only by the players, but our staff and coaches as well. So with that, I'll kind of take some questions.
Did you have to release anyone or put anyone on IR to make room for the new linebacker?
Yeah, we're working through that right now. We did, that'll come out soon. But yeah, we had to make room. So,
what you guys like, or what made you want to make that trade with the Eagles for Kennard?
I think obviously we went into this camp with, I thought, really good depth. And as we went through it, I think we lost Glove, for the year. That was a tough one for us because he was gonna play so many roles for us. John Williams had the back thing, who wasn't available, and then Monk got hurt there at the end. So I just felt we needed a little bit more depth, a guy who has some experience playing, a guy who could fit multiple spots, and it just kind of made a little bit of sense for us. So, and he's gotten tremendously better in his time in Philadelphia. They do a really good job there, and I really like the way he's progressing.
Brian, why go a different direction with the practice squad quarterback than the guys that you had here? You just think that maybe there's something better out there for you?
Yeah, I think it's, and you guys know this, I mean, we like to kind of churn the practice squad a little bit, the back end of the roster, to take a look at things. Sean's been here and done a really good job for us, but he's been here a few years, and we just kind of thought that we wanted somebody that maybe a little bit further than Taylor is, but also somebody that we might want to look at a little bit differently, so that's why.
What happened with Oliver? When camp started, you thought he'd be back. What happened there? And with the guy who's missed that much time,
Yeah.
a rookie fifth-round pick, can you expect him to give you any help this year?
Yeah, the timing of that was really tough on him because he's kind of like coming right into a period of time where he's starting to get to the point where he could get out there and do some things in practice for us. But to your point, he missed so much time that it was kind of like, okay, well, as a rookie player, let's give him the time to really get healthy. And then hopefully at a point this season we can open up that practice window and let him get those practices under his belt so that he can help us. But no, I'm still very optimistic that he could help us, not only this year, but hopefully in the future as well.
You could see still putting him on the 53, 7-8 weeks into the season?
I do. He's unique because of his athleticism and speed, he can kind of play multiple roles, not only on defense, but in special teams as well. So I think there's a way that, getting him into practice, that he could come out there and help us, whether that's situationally special teams or even on defense as well. So.
Hey, Goody. I don't apologize for questions very often. I probably should, given how long some of them are.
No, I'm just kidding.
But Waller's as good at his job. You know what your fans are talking about today. I'm curious. I'm not going to ask about anybody specific. I know better than that. But philosophically, you were in on Khalil Mack a few years ago, right? Mm-hmm. I'm curious, when it comes to really bold strokes, how do you view those? How do you view them as a risk? How do you view them as a reward? How do you kind of process ideas like that if you want to get involved in them or not?
Yeah. I think you got to, first of all, it's your team and how certainly every decision affects your football team. Obviously, there's so many different factors in it, who the player is, medical, certainly, cap-wise. But yeah, I think, you have to look at everything. Any opportunity to help your football team, you have to look at and discuss as a group. And we do that all the time. I mean, we do. It's almost daily. You know what I mean? I think what someone might consider a bold move, someone else might not. You know what I mean? We signed a practice squad guy today. I might consider that a bold move. You know what I mean? Somebody else might not. So, I think every opportunity that's out there to help your football team, we've always taken a look at, try to see how it affects us right now, how does it affect us in the future, and make the best decision we can. Sometimes we've been right, sometimes we've been wrong. Sometimes we've taken risks that really worked out for us. Sometimes it didn't. Sometimes we didn't take risks and we look back and we wish we would have. And sometimes, as Ted used to say, God helps those that can't help themselves a little bit sometimes. So sometimes the best deals you make are the ones you don't, and so you just kind of, I think you weigh everything and you weigh what is in the moment and what is in the future as well.
Brian, I'll ask it a little more directly. Would you, if a player like Micah persons were available and the price would be as high as that, was that something you would even entertain?
Yeah, first of all, I can't talk about any players on any other teams, but I think, again, every opportunity that's out there that if we think it could help the Packers, we're gonna take a long, look at. And, again, if that opportunity makes sense to us, then we'll do it, and if it doesn't, we won't.
I remember asking you back at the owners meeting about the pass rush after free agency. You said you expect a lot of internal improvement there. You have a full camp now to evaluate. How do you feel about the pass rush entering week 1?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I know that you guys have been around for camp and in the preseason games. They've done a really nice job, so, I really like the way they've been working. I think DeMarcus Covington has done an excellent job with the front. And then half the way he ties in the backers and everything else with that stuff. I really like the way we're trending. I think I've seen individual improvement from a number of guys, but I think most importantly, I've seen just kind of the coordination between the entire group and what we've been able to do so far. Again, it's pretty early, and the real bullets will start flying here pretty quick. But I like our ability and what we have in front of us.
You liked the pass rush coming out of last year's camp too, and then it was up and down.
Yeah.
You had your weeks, but not consistently enough.
Yeah, I mean,
Did you learn anything?
at times we were dominant.
Right.
It was one of those things where you wanted to be, dominant more consistently.
Did you learn anything about how to carry that momentum into the season going through that last year?
I think that's probably a great question for Matt and maybe the coaches a little bit more than myself. I do think that, some of our guys are coming into a time in their career where that consistency starts to show up. Usually most players, good players' career arcs are, those first couple of years, they're showing the flashes and then all of a sudden they get into that maybe late second, third, fourth year, and all of a sudden you really see it come out consistently. And we have a lot of those players on our roster, particularly on defense and in our front. I think we're starting to see that. I think I've seen it in practice, I saw it in the preseason games and those limited opportunities that they had. But the key will be obviously when we get out there for real.
You guys said a bunch of times that you're never a player away during past trade deadlines. But to Rob's question, what if that player is like a Hall of Fame trajectory sort of guy? Can that be, you're a player away and that guy could be, he's not a run-of-the-mill guy. He's like
I'd love about 22 of those guys so we can roll out, each and every time. But I mean, players make impact. There's no doubt. That's what you win and lose games because of players, right? These are the guys that do it. So certainly players make impact. I am not a huge believer that one player, you're never one player away, right? It's just I never believe that. But good players make impacts, and so anytime there's players of that caliber that you can acquire, you're trying to, So, but this is the ultimate team game. I've always believed that, and some of the best teams we've ever seen, didn't have a ton of stars on it, right? So it's really about how those units operate together. So, again, you can't win without good players, but they got to work together. It doesn't matter how many good players you have; if they're not working together, it won't matter.
You talked about good players working together. You've had so many injuries to some of your frontline players in camp, none devastating season enders, but just in terms of knowing your team's ready, how hard is it to know whether units are ready when they haven't had all those reps?
No, that's a good question, and I think every team goes through that this time of year. When you have certain position groups that can't work together on a regular basis, you just kind of, that's frustrating. It's frustrating for the coaching staff. It's frustrating for the players because you'd like to work those things out now instead of when the season starts. But at the same time, I always thought the first quarter of the season, most teams are working a lot of that stuff out, and I think for us, our different units will, some of those guys might be a little bit more ready than others, but that'll be part of it as well. If we're going to accomplish the goals that we want to accomplish as a group, we're going to have to continue to improve week by week. That's the only way to do this, and so no matter where we start, it's going to be really important how we improve and how we finish.
How do you feel about just where you are at cornerback right now? I know you'd spoken positively about them at the start of before training camp. After seeing them, just the guys you have back end, the guys you have coming in.
Yeah, no, I feel really good about our entire secondary group. It'd be good to get Xavier and Hobbs back out there. Again, they've missed some time working with the group, and the secondary, that coordination between that group is extremely important. So those reps that they have together is really important. And it'll be good to get those guys out there. But, certainly Bo's done an amazing job, making that transition. And I'm really excited about, not only right now what he does for us as a football team, but what he'll do in the future as well. And then certainly, Haddon and Micah stepped up and did a really nice job for us. I think those are guys that are going to continue to, not only on defense, but special teams, ascend to where we can really count on them.
Do you think Hobbs or Jaden Reed will be ready by week 1?
I'm very hopeful, for that, and I think they're trending the right way. But again, we'll see.
And also, what did you see from Stackhouse this preseason to give him that spot? And is he close to playing meaningful snaps for you in a real game?
Yeah, I think a lot of us were very excited about him, that he could do that if called upon. He's the same guy we saw at Georgia. You guys have seen him. He's got excellent size, excellent power. He's very hard to move off the spot. And I think the one thing that I think he really improved even from his time at Georgia was his ability to stack and then cross a blocker's face to get to the ball. Like, he made a lot of plays this camp where he held the point and was able to get across the guy's face to make plays on the ball. So now him and Brinson, I think, for two young guys with that size and that athleticism, I think I'm really, really excited about those two guys and how they can help us this year.
Talking to Stackhouse during camp, he let us inside a little bit with the narcolepsy and the stuff that he's battled with sleep apnea. At what point did you become aware of that? Was it before he got here, after, and how have you guys navigated that with him?
Yeah, no, our scouts were aware of that. Probably before the 24 college season started. That was something that he's dealt with for a while, and so we were very aware of that going into it. So I think our staff, our medical staff, under Flea and Nate and those guys, and really our whole staff as a support staff as a whole, did a great job kind of setting him up for success. I think attacking that on the front end and everybody understanding what what he was dealing with allowed him to kind of really overcome. This really hasn't been an issue.
Right, that undrafted streak hitting 21 years now, or it's poised to, with this game against Detroit. How do you view that, and just how important is that aspect of what you guys do in the player acquisition?
Yeah, the only time I know about is when you guys bring it up. I do think we have a tremendous history with our undrafted free agents. And we put a lot of time into it, a lot of work. And I think also across the league, agents understand that when players come here, they're going to get an opportunity, no matter if they're, if a guy's drafted in the second round and there's a UDFA here, they're going to get the same chance in some instances, Again, we don't have an owner that's looking over us asking why we did this, why we did that. We're able to keep these guys, and there's not a lot of questions about it. We just keep what we think is the best players for our football team. So I think we have a great history there, I think, and the most important thing to me is that the community understands that if they send their player to Green Bay, he's going to get a fair shake, and he's going to have a chance to make the football team.
Matt said there was a study from the NFL that said, boy, if some of your starters play some in the preseason, the injuries go down in September. So talk about those discussions, and you played a lot of starters on Saturday. Was that because you need to see some reps, or because you're kind of buying into that?
Yeah, I think, again, we've talked about it before, just how that delicate balance, right? Getting your team ready to play versus keeping them healthy. But I think, particularly guys that handle the ball, you want to have them take some of those hits before they get into the first game, right? You want them to feel that and understand what that's about. And I think it's just working on your craft. And there's a risk there. There absolutely is. And I think every team's a little bit different. And I think Matt has a great feel for what he thinks our football team needs. And I'm always supportive of it. There's part of me that, doesn't want to play any of these guys. Just, hey, let's just show up for the first game and play, and that way I know we're healthy. But the reality is, if we're gonna reach where we need to reach, we needed to work the last 6 weeks. The team did a great job doing that. We got a long ways to go, but I thought the decisions that Matt made as far as who was playing, who wasn't, through the joint practices and the preseason games, I thought it ended up being really, really good for us.
Brian, I know it's always about the whole body of work, but is there anybody that just in the final week, the joint practice with the Seahawks, the last preseason game, that you felt really just suddenly rose up and snatched a roster spot?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't necessarily, I wouldn't say this. I think, Kamal hadn't had an opportunity. He was nicked up there a little bit at the beginning, and he played really well in the last couple preseason games, in the last couple weeks. But I wouldn't say they just rose up and surprised anybody. I think it was just a matter of him getting out there and getting his opportunities, because he had a nice spring as well. So I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think there was a lot of our younger players, rookies and others, I thought significantly improved over the final couple weeks of of training camp, which is a great sign because it just means the process is kind of working, and that those guys were putting in the time, and then there was benefit at the end. So, it's credit to our staff, credit to the players. I mean, they did a nice job with that. They certainly got better from preseason game 1 to preseason game 3.
What do you think of the body of work that Jordan had in camp, obviously interrupted with the surgery and where he's at right now?
Yeah. Unfortunate, that he kind of had that pause there, but again, that's football. That was a tough decision he made to do what he did. I think it was the right one, but I think Matt did a great job with the 7-on-7 and just trying to keep him ahead of the curve a little bit. Then I think he's obviously has enough experience under him that I think he's going to be ready to go. But again, between our receivers and him being kind of nicked up, we certainly haven't had the amount of work that you would have liked, there's a lot of trust there with him as far as getting himself ready to play, week 1.
At the receiver position, what did Malik Heath do during this camp to kind of differentiate himself?
Well, obviously Malik's made our team, last few years, and he's kind of got he's proven in this league with some of the things he does. I mean, he is a gritty, tough, receiver that will go in and do some things that not all receivers are willing to do. He actually can help us on special teams because of his size and strength and athletic ability, which some guys, that's a little tougher for receivers. I think he's continued on his path to get better, but his size, physicality, and kind of his mentality are something that we've always kind of appreciated.
Brian, to go back to Bo, did it surprise you at all on how he has handled this transition? But even so, what did you see from him on the field?
Yeah, I knew he would handle it mentally the right way and attack it aggressively. I think the thing that surprised me was there was much less, there was much less moments of like, oh, maybe this won't work. I think from right away it was like, he just kept stacking days, and he just didn't have those moments where you were like, wow, he looks like a complete fish out of water. You never saw that. Certainly it wasn't perfect, right? There were times, but there was guys that have been playing DB for 10 years that they had the same kind of moments. So, but the mentality and how he attacked it, I mean, I think everybody in the building knew he would do that, and his attitude's infectious, and he just doesn't have a bad day. It's pretty impressive.
Brian, how eager are you to get this thing started? There's been more attention on this offseason than any other with the draft being here and everything, and now you're at the starting line to another season.
Yeah, no, I mean, there'll be a time, when we get past all this roster shuffling around and actually have kind of the 53 and the practice squad set, for the moment, because as you guys know, that changes week to week. But there'll be a moment getting past all this that is always kind of a nice feeling, and then you're kind of here we go, let's get going. We're kind of in the middle of it a little bit still right now, so that's going to be a little bit draining because the hardest thing is watching these guys just bust their tail for this many weeks and then having to tell them that, there's not going to be a place on this team for them. And so, but we'll get to the other side of that soon, and then the excitement will start to grow.
Hey Brian, you guys have put a big,
sorry.
a big emphasis on your tight ends and not just in the passing game but the blocking. What's the philosophy behind keeping 4 on the 53 and not just doing, like a 3 and 1 in the practice squad? What was kind of the decision behind that?
Sure, that's a good question. And as you guys know, Matt used his tight ends, the versatility that he asked of his tight ends is much more than a lot of places, a lot of schemes. Those guys are asked to do a lot in the blocking game, the run game, pass blocking game as well. Those guys are asked to do a lot. We also use those guys pretty frequently on teams. So having a number of those guys just because of the way they get beat up a little bit, not only for games, but for practices as well, just making sure we can get through practice. It's one of the strongest rooms on our team. I really like the group. I'm excited to see what they can do with the opportunities. But because of the way we use them, we're always going to need to have numbers there because we ask a lot of them.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks, guys.
Brian.
Like evening, but good afternoon.
So what do you do to get the new quarterback up to speed? Obviously, it's not the same as having Malik in here where you had to kind of give him a crash course into things, but is there pressure to get?
I don't know any new quarterback right now, so till he gets here. I mean, I haven't met him, so it is what it is. We'll try to get him acclimated and integrated as fast as humanly possible.
Now, what do you do with these 2 days of work now that your team is set, but then there's that little break before week 1?
Yeah, so we're going to have 2 practices. We had a quick one yesterday, and, today will be more of a moderate. We're just trying to get, especially our situation with Jordan, trying to get him a bunch of snaps. I think these 2 practices are absolutely critical. I feel like our guys just, especially a lot of our vets that played limited snaps in the game, gave them a few days to kind of get their legs back underneath them, so they should be pretty fresh. So we'll have a good one today, and then tomorrow is going to be similar to how we did it a year ago. It's just not going to be at nighttime. We'll have more of like a scrimmage type feel.
So will Jordan do more than what he did last week? Will he actually take some snaps?
Yes. Yes.
Do you think he'll have any restrictions in practice now moving forward, or will there be a ramp up headed towards week 1 Sunday?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always a ramp up, but what do you mean as far as?
Will he be able to take every snap,
Yes.
every handoff today?
Yes,
Are Wicks and Reed going to be back?
I hope so.
And Hobbs for today?
I hope so. Probably not today, but I hope so for week 1.
But at what point did Bo Melton go from an interesting kind of project of let's see what he can do at corner to, oh, he can be a 53-man guy for us?
Well, I think that was kind of, the thought behind it in regards to where do we need a little bit more help potentially, where could he make a bigger impact. Certainly when you draft 2 guys, we got a lot of options in the receiver room. Just thought it might be best for him and for us. I mean, it takes a unique individual to be able to do and go from the offensive side to the defensive side. He's got great feet. He's a great competitor. I think a lot of it has shown through on his ability to go out there and play on teams. Just what the impact that he can have, the physicality which he plays the game with, and he's just so competitive.
Is he at a place right now in his development where you feel confident he can go out there and cover regular starting receivers at this level?
Yeah, I think he's done a really nice job. I think there's always going to be things to work on and improve upon. I mean, especially when you talk about the technique and fundamentals that it takes. Especially, I mean, he's had a crash course in it, I would say, from late into the OTA process till now.
With Haddon and Robinson at cornerback, what did they show you over this training camp to secure those roster spots?
Yeah, just 2 guys that go out there and compete, and I thought they played really well in the last preseason game, especially. So we're excited about that.
With Stackhouse, what was the biggest thing that caught your attention about him during this whole preseason process?
Well, I mean, his size immediately catches your attention, and I think that was evident day 1. But he went in there and he's done an outstanding job. Specifically, I would say in the run game, just a big body to move. I think he plays with really good leverage and fundamentals, and you could see his impact on tape.
He's talked to us about his narcolepsy. At what point did Brian Gutekunst told us that he'd been aware of it while they scouted him throughout the whole process? At what point did you become aware, and what's it been like working with a guy who has those unique challenges?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think anybody here, had we not known that going into it, I don't think you'd know it, because I've never seen any indication of that in his time here. So he's done a great job of whatever he is to just mitigate the effects of that, because that's obviously a real thing and a real challenge. But it's a credit to him and our medical staff to help him and put him in the best position possible, because it hasn't been an issue. And I do think DeMarcus and our other D-line coaches do a really nice job of, I think for anybody, any player, the more you can kind of get up and move within the meeting room, I think is critical. And we're fortunate, the building that we have, it's afforded the flexibility within the meeting space to do a lot of stuff in there where you're not just sitting looking at a screen for an hour or two.
How do you feel last night, after 6 or 7 years of this, that, you know, you got the best 53, because you've got a pretty good track record. It's not like there's too many players that got away and went on to, you know, great success that you missed on. So through your process, you feel pretty good about the evaluations you just had in the last 6 weeks?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think it comes down to the communication that we have as a staff and with our personnel department, and just always trying to figure out, okay, what is it that you need to see? Is there some specific thing you want us to try to do with this player to, you know, give you a better evaluation and give us collectively as a better evaluation? So I think the communication is critical.
I'm curious what you've seen from your pass rush in this camp. And really, a year ago, you left camp feeling pretty good about it, and you had to adjust on the fly. If there's anything that went great going through that kind of shows you how to carry that momentum into the regular season?
Yeah, personally, I think that we've done a better job just with a lot of our games up front, just being a little bit tighter, not allowing, you know, loose pockets where a quarterback can get loose and carve you up with his legs. So condensing the pocket, there's nothing that quarterbacks, that it's not comfortable for them when that pocket starts to get engulfed around them. And I think our guys have done a really nice job of understanding just how to keep that rush lane integrity.
How much of a benefit is it? We saw it Saturday against Seattle, right? In that limited portion of time, just having linebackers that can get after a quarterback from the second level the way that you're going.
Oh, that can erase a lot of things when you do. Inevitably, it's going to happen at times when you're just going and you're rushing the passer, that somebody's going to get up and rush past the level of the quarterback. But if you got guys that can erase that and converge on the quarterback to mitigate those scramble opportunities, that's critical. And we're fortunate we got some athletic linebackers that showcase really good speed.
Hey, Matt, by the way, I like the Ted Lasso look. I'm curious.
That was for the player party, okay? So I did, I went as Burt Reynolds. It's growing back. It's coming back.
I'm curious.
It's not Ted Lasso.
It's a good show, though. I'm curious. You talked about the beds in Indy, and you weren't joking. Kenny said that it was an issue. But Banks had a back problem coming into camp. Is there any concern about him at all? Is he fine, or is there a concern there?
Well, I think backs are always one of those things that are always a problem if they flare up on you. So you never quite know. But I feel pretty good of where we are with those guys right now. You know, both those guys looked great yesterday, and I haven't talked to them yet today, but I'm hoping that they're doing well today as well.
And you got a lot of questions about Stackhouse. I'm sure you know about this streak that goes back 21 years of undrafted guys being on the opening day roster. You've been here for 7 of it, but it goes way back. What does that do for you as a coach to be able to say every year in meetings, hey, it doesn't matter where you start around here, it matters where you finish, you're going to get a fair shake to make this team?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. That's one of the great things about this league. And we always talk to the players. It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to see it. It doesn't matter where you're picked. All that matters is what you do when you get here. So it's a credit to Stack to be able to showcase his talent in a way that he's making what we feel is a pretty good football team.
No, everything's always a competition, but with Tyron Hopper, has he done enough to start getting into conversations for defensive snaps and some personnel groupings?
Yeah, potentially. He's got to keep going, but I think if you look at just his body of work from last year to this year, you could argue that he's as improved as anybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.